am. You're doing what's needed to be right. Yeah, absolutely. Don't worry about the other stuff. Well, it is so grateful. I'm so grateful to be here. It is so fulfilling for me to be here with you. And I'm so glad to see how well the church is doing. I think you'll agree with me that Reverend Rick is providing tremendously successful leadership for this community. And you know, that's a great thing. And I knew that was going to happen way before it even happened. But here's the thing. What I wasn't sure is if all of you would stay and support him in the way that you have. You are the ones that are growing this church. And I'm so grateful to you for it. Well, I got a lot to get to, so I'm going to get right to it here this morning. The spiritual truth, and those of you who've been with me for a while, you know I always like to anchor my talks in a spiritual truth, so it keeps me from going too far afield during the 20 minutes that I have. The spiritual principle that I'm working with today is that consciousness is cause. Consciousness is cause. Now, I'm going to tell you that if we can embrace that spiritual principle and live within it all of the time, what will happen is we will catapult our lives to a place of happiness and success that is unimaginable. The problem is that sometimes this beautiful spiritual principle is used to make us feel bad about ourselves. Oh, you have a cold? What's in your consciousness? So if you don't hear anything else today, hear me say this. Your individualized consciousness did not cause the racist to follow you around the store. Your individualized consciousness did not cause the transphobic legislator or medical doctor to withhold medical care from you. Your individualized consciousness did not cause your predatory uncle to mess with you when you were 6 years old. Those things happen, and they're happening to real people, and they're causing pain and sometimes long-term trauma. So I want to make sure that we understand that the good news is that although those things are happening, and they're not happening because of our individualized consciousness, what we can do with our individualized consciousness is cause a healing to happen in those areas and so many more. Not only for ourselves, but to begin to heal the planet so that that stuff doesn't keep happening in our lives. When Ernest Holmes wrote the phrase, change your thinking, change your life, he knew that that was only the beginning. Changing our thinking, changing our life will only stimulate what a real change happens, and that's within our heart and in our emotions. But change your thinking, change your life is what we needed to get started because it all starts in mind. But here's the thing. Our mind can not only be our greatest friend, it can also be our greatest enemy if we're not careful. That sentence comes straight from this book. So our mind is our greatest friend and our greatest enemy. It comes from this book called Positive Intelligence. And it's written by a man from Stanford, and it could have been written by a religious scientist. The reason I'm talking about it is because every year the team at Humanspirit, we choose a book or two. This year we've chosen 2 books to inform our work. This is one of them, and the other is the Book of Joy, which is a book about the relationship of Dalai Lama and Bishop Desmond Tutu. 2 great books. But today, a sermon is about positive intelligence. And like I say, it could have been written by a religious science because it's all about staying consciously awake and aware to our thoughts, to our actions, and to our words in this life. In fact, the entire book is written to answer this one question. And the question is this: why is it that only 20% of the people reach their true potential? Meaning 80% of us aren't reaching our true potential. Why is it that most of us on January 1st, we set a new goal, and by March 1st, we can't even remember what that goal was? Why is it that most of us start a diet and 2 months later we get on the scale only to find out we're heavier than we were when we started? Or how many of us go to a workshop or a seminar, you know, like the one I'm going to do today, and we get all jazzed up about the future of our lives, only to return to our old habits very shortly after that? Because in our mind, in addition to being our best friend, is also our greatest enemy. For instance, your mind might be telling you right now to prepare for a meeting that's coming up in your life. And your best friend mind is telling you all the good things and creating new ways to do the presentation. And then you go to sleep the night before that presentation or that workshop begins to happen, and all of a sudden your mind is focused on, I'm not enough. I don't have enough. My intellect is enough. My speaking skills aren't enough. I'm just not enough. That's not your best friend mind. That's your saboteuring mind. We sabotage ourselves with our worry-mort mind, and that is not a new concept. If I were in a Christian church, they would say, you've allowed the devil to speak to you. And what we would say is we've allowed our unconscious negative thoughts to take over in our life. I don't know about you, but in certain areas of my life, it feels like my thoughts are on a race car hell-bent for destruction. And on other parts of my life, it feels like I'm hell-bent on my little tricycle riding for good things in my life. What can I do about it? You can learn to become positively intelligent. Now, before we look at how to become positively intelligent, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page as what positive intelligence is. A person who is positively intelligent is there when they allow themselves, there's 75% of their mind to live within their divine mind. A positive intelligent person is when you allow yourself 75% of your mind to live in your divine mind, what the author of this book calls your sage self, and 25% to live within your saboteurs in your life. I love this because it means this: I don't have to be perfect. I can allow 25% of my thoughts to be negative thoughts, life-defeating thoughts, and still become compassionate, connected, and successful in my life. I can learn to co-create with God the life God intended me to be. And isn't that reassuring that you don't have to be perfect? That you can have 25% is a lot of negative thinking. But we need to strive for 75% of that to be within our sage. First, we have to keep our self-sabotaging down to 25%. And here's the challenge with that. You and I often don't know who our saboteurs are. We don't know what our saboteur thoughts look like. We don't know. We're not listening to what they sound like in our life. The question is not whether you have saboteurs in your life, but how strong they are in your life. You know, we named this church the Center for Spiritual Awareness because we believe that in each one of us there is a sage. Within each one of us we have a divine mind that knows the answer to everything to be successful in this life. But here's the problem. We don't believe it. We know it up here, but we don't believe that we have the divine mind within us that can solve every problem that we have. We've collected so much evidence in our lives, and we've dragged that evidence around for so long that about how much we've screwed up in our past, that we don't think God could be within us anymore. That we don't think we have access to this purely divine mind in our life. But our teaching says this: our past is the past. Lord Buddha would say this: the past isn't your problem. Your attachment to the past is what our problem is in this life. So our work is to learn who these saboteurs are, and I'm going to run through them. I've got an hour and a half worth of sermon here today. I realized at the first service, so I'm going to just run through these really quickly. And here's what I want to ask you to do. As you hear these saboteurs talked about. And you know, here's the thing. We all think our saboteurs are unique. They're not unique. I doubt you have any unique saboteurs in you. We share these saboteurs and so many more. But as I run through these, I want you to pay attention to how you feel. Are you feeling shame? Ooh, I have that one. Are you feeling resistant? I don't have that one. Are you feeling like you'd like to run away from the sanctuary? None of those reactions are bad. They're all revelatory. And all they are is revealing where our spiritual work needs to begin with the saboteurs in our life. The first saboteur is the judge. That's the quarterback saboteur. And I have that. I know many people have that in our life. The judge saboteur differs from discernment. In discernment, you're trying to find out where your values align with somebody or something. Judgment is where you're constantly evaluating as good or bad somebody else, yourself, your conditions, your situation in this life. The second one is called the avoider. The avoider focuses simply on positive and pleasant in extreme way. That person who is irritatingly always happy and cheerful and looking for the good in everything, no matter what it is. The problem with that is this. We take the little things that are irking us, that are irritating us, and then they build up, and all of a sudden we're screaming at somebody. It's not about what just happened, it's about the buildup of all the things that we just ignored in our life. I see this with couples a lot. You know, that one of them wants to just avoid all of the conflict, not discuss anything. You left the toilet seat up, you left your mascara on the kitchen table, whatever it is, it just builds up and builds up and builds up, and all of a sudden they're in my office because they've just been throwing plates at each other. You know? We want to be careful with this avoider. It's a tricky one in our life. The third one is the controller. That's the person who runs on anxiety, an anxiety-based need to be in charge. In the controller's worldview, either you are in control or you are out of control. No, don't be nudging people here now. I know. And don't you point any fingers up here. It's not necessary. I know who I am. I get it. The problem with the controller and the difficulty is that it's dangerous because it will create success in the short term, being a controller. But in the long term, what you will do is you will chase people away who you profess to love or who are working for you in this life. The fourth one is the hyperachiever. That makes you dependent on constant performance. It's the person who can never look inside to find out if they're happy. They're always looking outside to find if they're happy. Are you happy with me? Did I do good? Can you tell me I did good? That's the person, it's the person who's the workaholic and wonders why their spouse has just left them, the hyperachiever. The next one, number 5, is the hyper-irrational, and you've met that person. That person needs to discuss everything at length, at great length. You know, wives have been saying to their husbands for a long time, just listen to me. And husbands are, don't fix me, just listen. And husbands are responding, well, stop talking about it then if you don't want me to fix it. I need to fix it if it's there. That's the person, I don't get it. Well, all these saboteurs that I'm going to talk about today, cross-cultural and racial and class and gender lines, there are some that fit more in the box, and you'll recognize who those are. The next one is becoming hypervigilant. The hypervigilant saboteur makes you feel intense and anxious all the time about dangers that are surrounding you. In recovery, we call those the impending doom experts. Those are the impending doom experts. I have a friend who loves to camp, and she camps in a tent. I only say that because I haven't camped in a tent in quite some time. And if a area of dirt is flat and a good place for the tent, but it's under a tree, she will not camp there because she's afraid she won't go to sleep. Why? She's certain that that tree is going to fall right down on her head. Now we all, maybe not that extreme, but a lot of us have this idea that we have to be hypervigilant in certain situations. And what that does is it sabotages our 75% of positive person. Some of us are afraid to walk in certain neighborhoods. And when we get there, we're hypervigilant. What are we looking for? We're looking for problems. We're not looking for happiness. We want to be careful with the hypervigilant. The next one is the pleaser. That's the saboteur that compels you to gain acceptance and affection by pleasing and flattering other people all the time. Those are the people who are in Al-Anon. Women, listen up. We are especially victimized by this saboteur because we have been taught, we have been trained to become pleasers in this life. Now, I don't want to encourage you to go around and be angry, unhappy people, but there's a difference between being angry, unhappy people and being a person who is always trying to please everybody, even at the sacrifice of your own life. The 8th one is the restless, the saboteur in search of greater excitement. Donna will tell you, I'm that person. I love great excitement, do things that probably I should have done 20 years ago, but not today. But we'll talk about that later this afternoon. It's the person who's looking for perpetual busyness, always busy. You never feel peace. You never feel contentment. That saboteurs will give you an unending stream of things to distract you. Squirrel, squirrel, you know, we all have that. Number 9 is the stickler, the need for perfection. Order and organization that's taken too far. Some of you have been in a company of somebody and you went over to their house and you decided to have coffee. They gave you a cup of coffee. Before the last sip was ingested, they had the cup out of your hand and they were washing the cup. That's the stickler. And lastly, the victim. The victim saboteur wants you to feel an emotional temperament as a way of gaining affection and attention. And that's true for all of us. All of us have done this. We become victimized, and then we begin to wear that victimization in order to get attention and to get affection from people. Here is the thing. There are plenty of ways to gain affection and attention without becoming a victim in this life. Well, now, I know you didn't come to church to hear about all the saboteurs in your life and go leave here all the, oh my God, now I have the sticker. No, there's good news. There's always good news. Now remember, our spiritual work is simply to weaken the saboteurs to 25% and strengthen the divine wisdom to 75%, which all of us have in unlimited supply. If we can weaken to our saboteurs to just 25% of our thoughts, our words, and our actions, we can improve our lives immensely. If our saboteurs represent our internal enemies, the sage, what I call the divine mind, he calls the sage, represents that deeper part of us, that part that understands how to improve our lives and how to live in harmony with one another. Remember, the saboteurs will always pose as your friend, but they're not. The reason I've spent so much time on this morning on the saboteurs is that until you and I can begin to identify them, and I mean identify them on a daily basis, when you go to bed at night, what saboteurs did I let take over my 25% and more? When we can do that, we can tell them to get the hell off our porch. We just get gone. But once we, but what is also, see them lurking in our subconscious, we can look to our sage. And our sage has access to 5 great powers of our mind. And if we can access these 5 great powers in our mind, we can move closer to the 75%. The first one is the power to explore. We have the power to explore with great curiosity and an open mind. And that's different than exploring with a closed mind. I have a friend who's 80 years old and went to the doctor because her right knee was giving her a little trouble. And so she went to the doctor. She said, "Doctor, my right knee is giving a little trouble." He said, "Well, you're 80 years old. What do you expect?" And she said, "Well, my left knee is also 80 years old and it's fine." See if we can open mind, not a closed, "Oh, you're 80, this is what's happening to you. Oh, you're black, this is what's happening to you. Oh, you're a woman, this is what's happening to you." An open mind. The second one is to empathize with yourself and others to bring compassion and understanding to any situation. Now, this is much easier to do if you master number one. If you explore with an open mind, it's easier to be able to explore with great curiosity. Because here's the thing, we meet people, we don't actually know where they are. Maybe they're being total jerks, but maybe they're being total jerks because they have a child in the hospital. Or maybe they're being total jerks because they got dumped last night. Or maybe they're total jerks because they got laid off at work. Whatever the reason, we don't know it until we can empathize with them when we understand it, and we won't understand it until we approach it with an open mind in our life. The fourth power that your sage has is allows you to navigate and choose a path that is in alignment with your own values. I have a friend who's many years ago was, he still is, an engineer, but when he first got out of college, he was a pacifist. He first got out of college and he got a job offer from an arms dealer. Now the job offer was very lucrative. His wife was thrilled. And it was in a nice area that they wanted to live in. It had everything except it wasn't in alignment with his values. And I'm pleased to say he didn't take the job. But that takes courage. That's hard. That takes being aware. And that's a positively intelligent thing to do. And lastly, your sage has the ability to activate and take decisive action without distress. That's what the sacred reading was talking about today. Take decisive action, but you don't have to create war to take decisive action. War either within yourself or within anybody else. That's a hard one for me to get because I like to yell and screech and holler and march and hit people over the head with my signs. I like to do all that. But to be positively intelligent, I have to take decisive action without distress. Now, I wish I had more time this morning because I would like to go in. This book is phenomenal, and I encourage everybody to come to Humanspirit. And by the way, Humanspirit's filling up very fast, and so if you want to get in, you better get in soon. But Positive Intelligence, written by a man named Shrizad Shamin, a fabulous book that will help us liberate a lot. Now, next Sunday, the 6th, the team and I are going to be here after church for what we're calling a taste of Humanspirit, because we understand that, going to a retreat in the mountains with some people, if you're new to the church and you don't know anybody, I don't think I better do that. Come to the taste of Humanspirit so you get a feel for what happens there. In addition to the beach balls, that was to get you in the mood for Humanspirit today. So let's take this message into prayer, knowing that there is one power. It's the power of the Most High. That sage that is within each and every one of us fully, not partially, but fully. I give thanks. I give thanks for the Great One for always saying yes. You want more peace in your life? Yes. You want more abundance in your life? Yes. You want more connection in your life? Yes. You want greater health in your life? Sure. Whatever you want, I'm here. I give thanks to that Great Spirit, and I give thanks to every single person here. I release this word into the law, and together we say, and so it is.
like to hide. Some people like to run away from the pain inside.
Well, it's your business.
Yeah.
You do what you want to do.
That's right.
But if it's gonna work out,
Work out.
here's what you ought to do. You gotta hold